Law number 1. Never outshine the master. Judgment. Always make those above you feel comfortably superior. In your desire to please and impress them, do not go too far in displaying your talents or you might accomplish the opposite, inspire fear and insecurity. Make your masters appear more brilliant than they are and you will attain the heights of power. Transgression of the law. Nicolas Fouquet, who was King Louis XIV's finance minister, loved hosting big parties, enjoyed poetry and lived a very luxurious life. He was smart and important to the king. So when the king's prime minister, Jules Mazarin, died in 1661, Fouquet thought that he would be chosen, but the king decided not to fill the position, which made Fouquet worried that he was losing the king's trust. To win back the king's favor, Fouquet planned to throw the biggest party anyone had ever seen. The official reason for the party was to celebrate the completion of his beautiful chateau, Vaux-le-Vicomte, but the real reason was to impress the king, who was the guest of honor as well. The most important nobles from Europe attended this party, along with famous writers and thinkers like La Fontaine, La Rochefoucauld. Even the most famous playwright of that time, Molière, wrote a play just for this event, and he performed it himself that evening. The party started with a grand 7-course dinner featuring foods from faraway places that had never been tasted in France. There were also new dishes made just for the night. The meal was accompanied by music that was composed specifically for the king. After dinner, Fouquet personally showed the king around the chateau's stunning gardens, which would later inspire the design of the gardens at Versailles. The walk ended with a fireworks show and the night concluded with Molière's play. Everyone agreed that it was the most amazing party they had ever attended. But despite how incredible the party was, it didn't go as Fouquet has hoped. The very next day, the king ordered Fouquet's arrest. 3 months later, Fouquet was put on trial for stealing money from the country. Even though most of the money he was accused of taking was spent for the king's benefit and with his approval, Fouquet was still found guilty. He was sent to a remote prison in the Pyrenees Mountains where he spent the last 20 years of his life in solitary confinement. Interpretation. Louis XIV, often called the Sun King, was a proud and arrogant man who always wanted to be the center of attention. He couldn't stand the idea of being outshined by anyone, and especially not by his finance minister. So after Fouquet's grand party, the king decided to replace him with Jean-Baptiste Colbert, a man known for being stingy and throwing the most boring parties in Paris. Colbert made sure that any money from the treasury also went directly to the king. With that money, Louis XIV built an even more magnificent palace than Fouquet's, the famous Palace of Versailles. He hired the same architects, the same decorators, and even the same garden designers to make Versailles the most beautiful palace in the world. There, Louis hosted parties that were even more extravagant than Fouquet's. Let's look at what happened. At Fouquet's party, as each stunning display was presented to the king, Fouquet believed he was showing his loyalty and dedication. He thought that the party would win back the king's favor, proving that he had great taste, important connections, and popularity, which would make him a perfect choice for prime minister. But instead of being impressed, Louis felt threatened. As guests smiled and admired Fouquet's displays, Louis saw that they were more charmed by Fouquet than by him. It seemed to the king that Fouquet was showing off his wealth and power. Rather than being flattered, Louis XIV felt insulted. Although the king never admitted this to anyone, Fouquet's grand party had hurt his ego. Louis used the opportunity to get rid of someone who made him feel insecure. This is the fate of anyone who makes their superior feel less important or doubts their power, even if it is unintentional. Observance of the law. In the early 1600s, Galileo, the Italian astronomer and mathematician, relied on the support of wealthy patrons to fund his research. Like many scientists, he often gave gifts to powerful rulers, hoping to secure their favor. For example, he once gifted a military compass he had invented to the Duke of Gonzaga and dedicated a book about it to the Medici family. While this earned him their gratitude and more students to teach, his patrons rarely gave him money, leaving him in a state of constant financial uncertainty. In 1610, Galileo discovered the moons of Jupiter and decided to take a different approach. Instead of spreading his discovery among various patrons, he focused entirely on the Medicis. The Medici family used Jupiter, the mightiest of the gods, as their symbol, which represented their power and divine connection to ancient Rome. Galileo saw this as an opportunity. He turned his discovery into a tribute to the Medici's greatness, announcing that the moons had appeared in his telescope just as Cosimo II became head of the family. He pointed out that the number of moons, 4, matched the number of Cosimo II's brothers, and just as the moons orbited Jupiter, the 4 Medici brothers revolved around their father Cosimo I. It was a cosmic alignment linking the family's power to the heavens directly. To reinforce this, Galileo commissioned an emblem showing Jupiter on a cloud with 4 stars circling him and presented it to Cosimo II, symbolizing the Medici's family divine connection. As a result, Cosimo II appointed Galileo as his official court philosopher and mathematician with a full salary. This move ended Galileo's financial struggles and secured his place in the Medici court, a pivotal moment in his career. Interpretation. In one stroke, Galileo gained more with his new strategy than he had in his years of begging. The reason is simple. All masters want to appear more brilliant than other people. They do not care about science or empirical truth or the latest invention. They care about their name and their glory. Galileo gave the Medicis infinitely more glory by linking their name with the cosmic forces than he had by making them the patrons of some new scientific gadget or discovery. Scientists are not spared the vagaries of court life and patronage. They too must serve masters who hold the purse strings, and their great intellectual powers can make the master feel insecure as if he were only there to supply the funds, an ugly, ignoble job. The producer of a great work wants to feel he is more than just the provider of the financing. He wants to appear creative and powerful, and also more important than the work produced in his name. Instead of insecurity, you must give your master glory. Galileo did not challenge the intellectual authority of the Medicis with his discovery or make them feel inferior in any way. By literally aligning them with the stars, he made them shine brilliantly among the courts of Italy. He did not outshine the master, he made the master outshine all others. Keys to power. Everyone has insecurities. It's human nature. The moment you step into the spotlight and showcase your talents, you are bound to stir up feelings of envy and resentment in others. That's just how it is. You can't spend your life worrying about what others people feel. But when it comes to those in power, your boss, a mentor, or someone higher up, there's one rule you should never forget. Never outshine them. It's easy to think that times have changed since the days of Louis XIV or the Medicis, but the truth is, those at the top still want to feel secure in their positions. They want to believe that they are the smartest in the room, the most charming, and the most talented. You may think that by flaunting your skills and achievements, you are winning their approval, but often it does the opposite. Take the example of Louis XIV. His finance minister Nicolas Fouquet threw an extravagant party to impress the king, but instead of being flattered, Louis felt overshadowed and insecure. As a result, he replaced him with someone less brilliant, someone who wouldn't threaten his ego. This happens today in corporate environments all the time. Imagine you have got a boss or a manager who loves to take credit of all the team's wins. You might think that doing your best work and showcasing your talents and showing your initiative will win you a promotion. But if you're too good at what you do, too creative, too smart, you might end up making your boss look bad in comparison. That's when the trouble starts. Look at how Galileo handled things. When he discovered the moons of Jupiter, he didn't split the recognition among different patrons. He focused just on the Medicis, linking his discovery to their family symbol of Jupiter, showing that even the cosmos supported their power. He didn't just share his finding, he made his patrons feel even more important. And what did he get in return? Prestigious position at the Medici court, with financial security that most scientists of his time could only dream of. That is the power of making those above you shine. Secondly, even if your boss seems to love you, never assume you are untouchable. History is full of examples of favorites who fell from grace by thinking they could do whatever they wanted. So, what's the takeaway here? No matter how much favor you think you have earned, never forget that your position depends on the person above you. Never take their approval for granted. If you want to keep your place or even rise higher, there's a subtle art to handling superiors. The best way to win them over is to make them feel smarter, more creative, and more powerful than they are. If your ideas are great, attribute them to your boss publicly if you can. If you're funnier, dial it down. Let them get the laughs. If you're naturally more social, make them feel like they are the center of attention. In the end, holding back your strengths in front of your superiors isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's about playing the long game. Because if you can make your boss feel like a star, like Galileo did with the Medicis, you become indispensable. And when the time comes for you to step out of their shadow, you will be ready to rise. Reversal. You don't have to worry about upsetting everyone you meet, but you must be smart about who you challenge. If your boss or superior is already losing their power, there's little to fear in outshining them. Measure their strength carefully. If they are weak, quietly speed up their fall. Beat them in charm, intelligence, and skill at key moments. But if they are very close to falling, just let things unfold naturally. Outshining someone who's clearly struggling can seem mean-spirited or unnecessary. However, if your boss is still secure in their position, but you know that you are more capable, then be patient. Power doesn't last forever, and your time will surely come. One day, they will lose their strength, and if you have waited wisely, you will be in the perfect position to rise above them.